just knocked over an entire fake diet soda all over my speakers, my iPad, the book. So I don't even know if anybody can hear me. Just uno momento, okay? I'm so sorry. Like, I had it all set up perfectly. I don't even know if you guys can hear me, but yeah, the entire thing, 16 ounces. So my iPad, so entertain yourselves. Oh my God, if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. So yeah, let me get everything dried off. I can't even see chat. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, put a thumbs up in chat if you can hear me. And for anybody just popping in, I just knocked 16 ounces of fake Diet Pepsi all over my book, all over the speaker, all over my notebook with my notes. Yeah, awesome. So I need to clean that up real quick. So thumbs up. So it sounds like everybody can hear me. I'll say hello to everybody. Okay, good. Just give me a minute because I really, oh my God, so much. And I always drink things, out of a glass bottle. And I thought, oh, I'll treat myself. I'll put it in my, red Pizza Hut cup. No. The second I do that, I knock it over. So just give me a minute to clean all this up. And then we'll get into it. Everybody say hi to everybody. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Oh, good. Everybody can hear me. Oh my God. I hope I didn't thrash my book. I think I got it picked up quick enough that I don't feel any moisture on that. The book got a tiny bit wet, but that's okay. All right. I should have probably I should have probably waited to come on, but I literally hit live right as it went over. I was like, oh no. Okay, thanks, Princess Alyssa. Tell everybody, say hello, everybody, say hi to each other in chat. It's been a year. We've got Foodles sitting here. Okay. I think, okay, I've got that. The speaker. Got the book. It's not too bad. Notebook. Got that. Okay. Fiddick's trying to drink the fake Diet Pepsi on the floor. Okay, hold on. Hello, everybody. Great Greenbow here. All right, let me look at chat. Yeah, Chow Bean, these cups, these red Pizza Hut cups, I ordered these directly. They're directly from the place in California. So finish off what's left. I love old school Pizza Hut. And does anybody remember, like, these are red with the pebbled texture? Do you remember the amber ones they used to have too? A lot of diners had them. They had that real 70s vibe. I want to get some of those next. Let's see. The Pizza Hut comes from. It's good to see. Yeah, it's good to see everybody. I am excited. Hello, Vacant Agent. Hello, Grateful Life. My other cat. Chow Mein, Minka Ducati's here. I see Princess Alyssa. Let's see, did I get everybody? And of course, it seems that Foodles is actually live right now on Kick, except for she's sitting outside, smoking, and so she's going to start fading real soon. And I actually, threw in my headphones and was listening to the tail end of this conversation. Actually, took some notes. I have some thoughts, but overall, as I say every time, it's SSD with her. It's just the same shit, different day. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So is there anything juicy in the book? Well, so far. So what I was thinking is, do we want to? I can maybe read like a chapter of this out loud, and then we can break into foodie. It's I just read the first little bit of this chapter, and I was like, oh my, there are some opinions, and so I was just like, but put a one. Hey, full moon watcher. So do we, because we're going to end up talking about Chantal, but do we want to maybe, like, I can read a chapter of this? They're not real long chapters. I did have a brief conversation with Brother Bilal over email asking about this, and so he didn't trust this book to even go to publishers. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have a lot of money, and he was just worried that it would get adulterated or lost or something. So he edited this himself because he didn't want anybody to see what he was writing. So he edited this and put it together all himself and self-published. And so, but I will say, he is, it reads very smoothly. So he's obviously incredibly intelligent, and it reads pretty smoothly, and it almost reads in a conversational tone, which makes it really easy. So, hey Amber, so it's looking good. And he told me, he goes, hey, after you read it, get a hold of me and let me know what you think, because he said, he's up, and right now he is being his own lawyer. Apparently, Jada Pinkett Smith has decided to try to sue him, and he is representing himself. And so he's got a GoFundMe to get money, because he's going up against her, because she's trying to silence him is what she's trying to do. She doesn't like anybody having an opinion, except for her, apparently. And so nobody gets it twisted. I think Jada Pinkett Smith is one of the most toxic, disingenuous, lying scumbags in Hollywood. I mean, she's at the top of the list. I really have no respect for that woman. Just from what I've seen, I don't care for her. I think she's just a selfish person. So that's where we're at. So if you're a Jada Pinkett Smith fan, you probably don't want to hang out, because I don't have anything good to say. But how many pages are in the book? Let's see. 176. And and he doesn't waste he doesn't waste space. It's chock full. So yeah, 176 pages, and I'm glad I see you. I keep hearing, oh, it's the cats. All right, so put a 1 in the chat if you guys, if you want me to. I'm thinking I want to read just a chapter of this. Vishnu is prairie dogging right now. She sees something. So put a 1 in the chat. I'm thinking to read a chapter of this, and put a 2 if you're like, no, I just want to break right into foodie. I figured here, sooner rather than later, Foodles will be too baked, and she'll be offline anyway, and then we can maybe go peep in at the back end of her live, even though I don't think there's anything. But yeah, so we're seeing 1s. Okay. And I did read the first couple chapters, and they just kind of lay the basis out. Basically, Brother Bilal beats Will Smith, through some shenanigans in Philadelphia, and Will Smith ends up going to LA, and he gets a hold of Brother Bilal, who's still in Philly, and says, hey, come on out, brother, because they really hit it off and got along real well while they were doing gangster stuff. back in Philly, and at that point when Brother Bilal got over there and he was turned into Will's right hand man, it turns out that Will Smith was, according to Brother Bilal, he was comfortable sleeping with whomever he needed to sleep with, and apparently his predilection was men. I'm just saying what he said, and he's not really judging. He's just like, he hides who he is. And so there was that, and then fast forward a little bit, and Will Smith is married, I think her name was Sherry, and they had that little boy Trey, you know, and things kind of started falling apart right about the time he got that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air book. And that's kind of where I want to start reading on chapter 3. There's not a whole lot in those first couple chapters. So, hi, Starry Wilson, welcome. Or Star Wilson. So, this book is called, and so if anybody just rolling in, so we're going to read a chapter 2 out of 38 Years with Will and Jada Smith, a memoir, I Am Whistleblower by Brother Bilal. He was Will Smith's best friend for 38 years. You can go online and find photos of Brother Bilal with Will Smith all over the place. You know, bread and butter they were. And then I don't know what, sorry, I turned my oven on. My stove. I don't know what broke them up. I suspect it was probably Jada and her BS, but for 38 years, these guys were friends, and then, let's just say things fall apart. And so, I'm going to pick up on chapter, okay, hold on. I got to get the chat set too. I realize I'm not seeing all the messages. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to, start on chapter 3. So does everybody got their popcorn? And in fact, let me make myself a fake Diet Pepsi, so because I knocked mine over. And then, yeah, I'll start reading. I'll start at chapter 3. Just anything before he meets Jada Pinkett Smith. I mean, So we know that he's willing to do whatever it takes to be famous. He's getting very famous. And according to Brother Bilal, he likes men. I don't care who you sleep with as long as you're not sleeping with my man. Seriously. All right. And then I'll pick up the book. I am using my soda. I am making this late at night. I'm drinking a Diet Pepsi, but it's a caffeine-free Diet Pepsi because I don't need caffeine this late at night. Who does? So, they had it on sale. I got a 4-pack for like $4. Apparently nobody likes caffeine-free Diet Pepsi. All right. All right. I keep saying all right. Yes, long time no see, Jocelyn's mom. I'm going to read the 38 Years, Will Smith's best friend. Hey, Linda. And then we'll break into the Foodles McDumbass stuff. So, let me see. Okay, I'll read the last paragraph right before the end of chapter 2, and then we'll go from there. And I'm not going to keep looking at chat while I'm reading this. And if anybody's wondering what this is one of my grow lights I've now turned on. So, okay, so I can see. I'm trying to get the chat all caught up. All right, so it says, okay, lastly, before I start reading, put a 1 in the chat if the volume's good. Put a 2 in the chat if I'm muffled or the sound quality's crap. So put a 1 if the sound quality's good. Put a 2 if there's a problem. Okay, I'm seeing 1s. Sweet. Hi, EP. Hey, Random Fish. All right. Okay, it looks like we're good. Okay, Princess Alyssa. All right. It says, the Will Smith that America fell in love with, the charismatic, funny, seemingly wholesome star of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, was in many ways a carefully constructed illusion. Behind the scenes, he was a man struggling with his identity, his sexuality, and the immense pressure of sudden fame. But in Hollywood, hindsight is always 20/20. The reality is that the industry is built on illusions, on carefully crafted public personas that often bear little resemblance to the real people behind them. Will Smith, the megastar, was perhaps the grandest illusion of all. Will's story is familiar, is just another chapter in a long, complicated history of Hollywood, a place where dreams come true, but often at a cost too high to measure. As I finish recounting these events, I hope that by sharing this story, we can start to have an honest conversation about the realities of fame, power, and the exploitation in Hollywood. Only by bringing these issues to light can we hope to create change. Can we get a round of golf claps for Brother Bilal? He's a pretty decent writer. All right, chapter 3. In Hollywood, love is just another script to follow, and everyone's playing a part. Sometimes the actors forget where the role ends and reality begins. That's what I've come to believe after years of watching the games people play in this town. And let me tell you, there's no better example of this than the whole Will Smith and Jada Pinkett saga I witnessed firsthand. Now, I've seen a lot of shit go down in Hollywood, but this story, it's got everything. Fame, money, sex, drugs, and enough drama to fill a whole season of soap operas. But what makes it really wild is how it all played out behind the scenes, away from the flashing cameras and adoring fans. Let me take you back to the late 90s. Will Smith was riding high on the success of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and his budding movie career. On the surface, he had it all, the fame, the fortune, but behind that million-dollar smile, things were falling apart. Will's marriage to Cherie was on the rocks, and divorce was looming. Now, in normal folks' lives, a divorce is just a personal tragedy, but for a star like Will, it's a PR nightmare. His team was in panic mode, trying to figure out how to spin this so it wouldn't tarnish Will's golden boy image. That's when they came up with the bright idea. Will needed to start dating again, and fast. But not just any woman would do. No, they decided he needed to be seen with a dark-skinned black woman. Their choice? Garcelle Beauvais. I think it's pronounced Beauvais. Do you guys need me to write her name out on something, or do you want me to just keep reading? Put a 1 if you want me to keep reading. Put a 2 if you'd like me to write things out on a chalkboard behind me, these names. So 1 is just keep going, Grebo. 2 is like, no, please stop, write these things down so I can. So, okay, keep going. Yes, Vishnu. Yeah, random fish. Listen to this book. This is Will Smith's best friend of 38 years, and this book is self-published, so it's not exactly easy to find, but Beauvais. Beauvais. And so I know it's EAUX is O, and EAU is oo, like Juno, but so I'm going to say Beauvais, something like that. So, their choice, Garcelle Beauvais. Now, you think Will would just go along with it, right? I mean, it's all part of the Hollywood game, but what happened next shocked even me, and believe me, I thought I'd seen it all. When they suggested Garcelle, Will lost it. I mean, he went off. Dark-skinned women are disgusting, he shouted. I have never in my life been with a dark-skinned woman and never will. I was in that room when he said it, surrounded by all these white executives. The air felt like it had been sucked out of the room. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Here was Will Smith, a black man who'd made it to the top, talking like some kind of self-hating racist. I felt a mixture of shock, disappointment, and anger coursing through me. I couldn't help but think about my own family, my sisters and aunts with their beautiful dark skin. Will's word felt like a personal attack, and it took everything in me not to lose my cool right then and there. Despite Will's protest, the PR machine rolled on. They decided to plant stories in the press about Will and Garcelle dating. They even set up a few fake dates for the paparazzi, but it was all smoke and mirrors. There was never anything real between them. Now, I couldn't just let Will's comments slide. A few days later, I cornered him about it. I was heated, man, sweating bullets, but determined to set him straight. Will tried to justify himself, talking about how he got rejected by a dark skinned girl in high school and how she'd humiliated him in front of everyone. Will, I said, cutting him off, I hear you, but man, you can't let one bad experience color how you see all dark skinned women. He even brought up his sister Pam, who's very dark skinned and has gotten addicted to crack cocaine. I wasn't having any of it. I told Will straight up, I don't like the way you talked about black women in front of all those white people. I reminded him how he'd treated Pam when he got famous, how he'd pushed her away when she needed him most. You allowed your friends that were drug dealers to sell your sister drugs, I said. And when you got famous, when you got fame, you treated her like a piece of shit. Pam just needed some love, love that she never got from home. And have you Pam, have you ever considered how your actions might have contributed to her pain? I talked about the toxic environment they had grown up in, with their father's abuse casting a long shadow over their lives. I could see Will squirming, but I didn't let up. I told him how every girlfriend he'd had cheated on him. I don't need you to explain yourself to me, I concluded, my voice softer now. But what you said, it hurt me, Will. It hurt me deeply, and I walked away, leaving him to stew in his own thoughts. Later that day, I thought about Will's excuses, his high school rejection and his sister Pam. I felt a deep sadness. How could someone so successful be carrying around this much pain and resentment? It made me realize that no amount of fame or money can heal those deep-seated wounds we all carry. After all this drama, Will's team decided to let him find a woman on his own. But let me tell you, things only got crazier from there. Okay. Yeah, she wasn't coming to America. Okay. So things only got crazier from there. Will's behavior started getting more and more erratic. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. His desire to be with men was getting harder to control, and that's when Benny Medina, his manager, had this brilliant idea to introduce Will to Dwayne Martin. Now, Dwayne Martin was another actor engaged to Tisha Campbell Martin at the time. Will and Dwayne hit it off immediately. I mean, they became best friends overnight. But it wasn't just friendship, if you know what I mean. They started a sexual relationship and were spending all their time together. Through Dwayne, Will got introduced to a whole new crowd, and that's how Jada Pinkett came into the picture. Is everybody else hearing this? Okay. That's how Jada Pinkett came into the picture. Will had met Jada before, but when she auditioned for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it was like a switch flipped in his head. This man became obsessed. He would go on and on about how she was famous, how every man in Hollywood wanted her, how she was from the streets of Baltimore. In Will's mind, Jada was the perfect woman for him. Will started pressuring Dwayne and Tisha to set him up with Jada. But Jada wasn't feeling it at first. She made it clear she wasn't about to get involved with a married man. He wasn't about to take no for an answer. And Dwayne and Tisha wouldn't give up. They kept trying to get Will and Jada together. Will was like a man starving for love. He begged, acting like he had nothing left to lose. This man launched a full-scale charm offensive. He started showering Jada with expensive gifts. We're talking expensive jewelry, as well as other things. And remember, Will was still in debt to the IRS at this time. He didn't really have the money to be thrown around like that, but he was determined to win Jada over, no matter the cost. Will even asked me to dig up information on Jada. What I found out was eye-opening, to say the least. Jada had connections in 3 big-time drug dealers in Baltimore. I knew every one of them pretty well. Let me pause this to say, Brother Bilal, when he was still living in Philly, ran with a really rough crowd. Brother Bilal came up on the streets, and he ran with a very rough crowd, and he was an enforcer, and he did things, violent things. So, on the East Coast, he knew a lot of things. Will Smith was more of a kind of an outsider that got brought in because he started getting popular because of his rapping and stuff and kind of got brought into that world. But Will Smith wasn't necessarily, he didn't break bad the way Brother Bilal had when he was younger. So if Brother Bilal says he knew these drug dealers in Baltimore, I have no doubt he knew these drug dealers in. So all right, let's see. Will launched a full-scale offensive. Let's see. And he asked me to dig up information on Jada. What I found out was eye-opening, to say the least. Jada had connections to 3 big-time drug dealers in Baltimore. I knew one of them pretty well. Jada was all about hooking up with street guys who had money. She got around, if you know what I mean. When Jada moved out to Los Angeles, she didn't change her ways. She kept messing with street dudes and had a thing for pretty women, too. People weren't sure if she and Tupac were a thing, but his name kept coming up whenever I asked about her. She had a reputation for being wild, free-spirited, and not one to be tied down. As I uncovered more about Jada's past and her connections to drugs, I couldn't help but worry. This woman was from a whole different world than Will. I feared he was in over his head. Watching Will's obsession with Jada unfold, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach. On one hand, I was happy to see Will genuinely excited about someone, but on the other hand, it all seemed so calculated, like he was casting her for a role rather than falling in love. I wondered if Will even knew the difference anymore. When Will asked for my opinion, I gave it to him straight. Will, I said, based on what I know, she's not wifey material. She's out of your league, man. She's a wild animal that can't be tamed. All she knows is survival. But Will was convinced that all Jada needed was love and understanding. He was determined to be the one to give it to her. It was like watching a man possessed. Jada finally agreed to meet Will without Dwayne and Tisha around, and let me tell you, Will pulled out all the stops. We're talking private jets, buying an entire restaurant so they could dine alone, Rolex watches and diamond earrings. Will was buying love, plain and simple. He would tell Jada that they were going to be the biggest actors in the world and that she would be his love interest in movies. And you know what? It started to work. Jada began to crack. She could see that Will was serious, that he had the power to make things happen. But just when it seemed like things were going Will's way, the situation got complicated. Cherie, Will's soon-to-be ex-wife, found out about Will and Jada, and she was not happy. Cherie told Will he couldn't date Jada in public until their divorce was final. She'd done her research on Jada and didn't mince words. She called Jada a whore, bisexual, and crazy. She said she didn't want their son Trey anywhere near her. To drive her point home, Cherie threatened to release some compromising pictures if Will kept taking Jada out in public before the divorce was settled. It was like a ticking time bomb, and I was just waiting for it to explode. Will was in a tough spot. He was finally making progress with Jada, but to keep her, he knew he had to come clean about everything. So he decided to take a big risk. He sat Jada down and bared his soul to her. The day Will decided to open up to Jada, I felt both admiration and fear for him. Admiration because it takes guts to lay yourself bare like that, especially in this town with everyone's always hiding behind a mask, but fear because I knew how vulnerable Will was making himself. In Hollywood, vulnerability can be a weapon, and I wasn't sure Jada could be trusted with Will's truths. He told her everything about his relationship with Benny Medina, his thing with Dwayne Martin, all of it. He said he needed to find a wife who would stand by him despite all his flaws. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Jada's response? She told Will she already knew about everything. She said the reason she could never fully commit to him before was that he hadn't been honest with her. Then Jada laid it all out on the table. She told Will she needed a strong man to handle her. She admitted to being a handful and said she wasn't perfect. She talked about always looking for love in all the wrong places because her parents had failed her. Her words painted a vivid picture of a childhood marred by abandonment and confusion. My father chose drugs and women over my mother and me, she confided, her voice barely above a whisper. It left scars that run deep, especially when it comes to trusting men. Jada's eyes grew distant as she spoke of her mother, a woman whose beauty was both a blessing and a curse. She was stunning, but she was also an addict. Our house was a revolving door of men, all with nice clothes, flashy cars, and expensive jewelry. Make sure you have a man with money. It doesn't matter how he treats you. Money is what keeps us off the streets. Her mother said these words. Jada explained, shaping her view of relationships in ways she found she was still unraveling. So everybody, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, why would you lie about alopecia? She has traction alopecia, but it's not the same as, alopecia because your immune system turned against you. All right. She went on and spoke of her grandmother who offered a different perspective. She spent more time with her grandmother. Find a good man who loves you, she'd say. His looks or ability to sexually satisfy you don't matter. You can please yourself if need be. It was here that Jada's voice faltered, revealing a painful truth. Her grandmother, in a misguided attempt to empower her, had taught Jada about self-pleasure at the tender age of 8. The premature introduction to sexuality had unforeseen consequences. My early sexual activity made me act wrongly in school. I would inappropriately touch other kids. I'd reach for their private parts, not understanding the harm I was causing. I got in trouble, but no one really asked why I was acting out. Then I discovered that older men with money, wanted what I was offering. They'd give me cash to touch them, to let them touch me. I was just a kid, but to them I was a commodity. She spoke of balancing between two conflicting worlds, one of materialistic relationships modeled by her mother, and another of misguided sexual empowerment by her grandmother. Jada's voice trembled as she described the lack of supervision in her young life. Jada explained how she had learned early on that her innocence could be exchanged for money and what felt like affection. Each encounter has left me a little more hollow, desperately desiring love, but always something else, something that proved fleeting, she admitted. Jada kept it real with Will. She admitted she was addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, being in control, and drama. If you can accept me as I am, I can accept you, she told him. I just need you to be my best friend, nothing more, and let me be who I am, and I can be your best friend and accept you as you are. It was like watching two people negotiate a business deal, not fall in love. But in Hollywood, maybe that's what love looks like. The very next day, Will was all worked up. He called this big emergency meeting out of nowhere, had us all wondering what the hell was going on. We gathered in the conference room. Will stood there looking like a kid who just found Christmas came early. His eyes were shining and he had this goofy grin plastered on his face. Then he dropped the bomb. Listen up, everyone, he announced, puffing out his chest. I've got some big news. Jada and I, we're best friends now. I nearly choked on my coffee. Best friends? Since when? Last I checked, Jada could barely stand to be in the same room as Will, but Will wasn't done. He went on and on about how Jada was now a top priority. I want everyone here to give Jada whatever support she needs, he said, looking each of us in the eye. Whatever she wants, she gets. No questions asked. I think he's talking about he gathered his posse, his people, his friends, his homies around him, that take care of Will and said, okay, now you're going to take care of my woman. So let's see. Whatever she wants, she gets. No questions asked. Then Will turned to Jada, who was standing off to the side looking cool as a cucumber. Jada, why don't you say a few words? He suggested. practically begging her with his eyes. Jada stepped forward, and I swear the room temperature dropped 10 degrees. She looked at us like a queen addressing her subjects. Then she opened her mouth, and what came out left me floored. I will be making some changes, she said, to make Will and I's best friendship conducive to our environment. My jaw damn near hit the floor. The way she said it, like she was doing us all a favor. And Will, he was nodding along like she was preaching the gospel. In that moment, watching Will hang on Jada's every word, I knew it was game over. Jada had won, plain and simple. She had her claws sunk deep into Will's back, and the fool was begging for more. I could see the road ahead, and it wasn't pretty. There was pain coming, lots of it. But Will, he was blinded to it all. He wanted those claws to go deeper, no matter the cost. And as I thought about all this, I marveled at the circus of Hollywood. Here were two people, both carrying a world of baggage, both with their own agendas, both coming together in this bizarre arrangement they were calling a best friendship. It was like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. The way Jada spoke about making changes, it sent chills down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something big, something that would change Will forever, and not necessarily for the better. When Will called the emergency meeting to announce his best friendship with Jada, this didn't even feel real. Hell, I don't know, but it was something real in a town built on illusions, something honest in a place where lies are currency. I left that meeting with my mind reeling. Part of me wanted to grab Will, shake him, and tell him to run as fast as he could in the opposite direction. But another part of me recognized that Will and Jada had found something rare in this plastic town, a chance of real honesty and acceptance. Who was I to stand in the way of that? Will and Jada Smith were about to take Hollywood by storm, and God help everyone who got in their way. For Jada, excuse me. For Jada, I could sense the weight of her past shaping the woman she had become. It was clear that her experiences had expressly impacted her view of relationships and self-worth. Here was a woman who had been failed by the very people meant to protect her. Jada's story was one of survival, but also of deep-seated pain that manifested in destructive patterns. Her path to healing would be long and complex, requiring her to confront the roots of her pain and learn to love herself truly. In the years that followed, I watched Will and Jada's best friendship evolve. They became a power couple, just like Will had predicted. But behind the glossy magazine covers and red carpet appearances, I always remembered that day in the meeting room. I remembered the raw, ugly truths they'd confronted, the deal they'd struck. Looking back now, I realize that day marked a turning point, not just for Will and Jada, but for all of us who were part of their world. The game had changed, and we were all just trying to keep up. Okay, that's the end of chapter 3. So, I suppose at some point we could go back and I could read chapter 1 and 2 to you if you want to hear about the violence in Philly and the drug deals and stuff like that. But best friends announcements out there. Let's see, the writing leaves some. Yeah, the writing, Crazy Cat Lady. If you're reading it in your head, it's not too bad. But trying to read it out loud like that, it's challenging. I'll just say that. You know, I find myself like where a sentence should end, it keeps going, and it's punctuation. And so, like I said, I haven't read a lot of it, but you know, I've read worst. So, so do you want me to Jada Lida? Yeah. Do you guys do? Let me see how long the next chapter is, or do we want to? Yes. Vishnu and Morgoth are down here. Let's see, how long is the next one? This is a challenging book to read out loud. Let's see, 33 to 32 to 46. How long was the... Chapter 4 is quite a bit longer, so should we just wait? I guess we can wait till another live and I can read another chapter, I guess. Do we want to start talking about Foodles? Do you want me to read a little bit more of this? Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to read a little bit more about Will and Jada. Put a 2 in the chat if we're ready to maybe start smack talking Foodles. I actually planned on actually doing some bad baking and questionable cooking, but I've got, electronics and everything, so there's no way I could do any bad baking or questionable cooking tonight. So I see a lot of 1s. So yes, Vishnu. Can you guys hear Vishnu? Vishnu says hi. So okay, it's looking like people overall. Marlene, we won't read a ton more, but it's looking like people do want me to keep reading. Hello, Dashing D. Hello, have a Sue Mom. So, okay. Woolly Bird says no. We've got 2 no's and a whole bunch of yeses. So how about I read a little bit more? So, I'm trying to remember. Like in chapter 1 and 2, basically it talks about how Will, when he started getting big in the rap game over there, he got in with a rough crowd and he almost got his ass beat. But brother Bilal was originally sent to beat Will's ass because of his manager, and brother Bilal really liked him, so he gave Will a heads up and said, hey, you need to get out of here, and they just got to be friends and stuff. These glasses are broken. I broke them, so there's no glass in them. And then from there, he got big, and then, he ended up in LA. That's kind of what and then in chapter 2, they talk about when Will Smith first got to LA, he got Benny Medina as his manager. I guess Quincy Jones introduced Will Smith to Benny Medina, or Benny Medina, who's Will's manager, introduced Will Smith to Quincy Jones, and they all started hanging out, and then apparently, it says right here, the set became their playground. Benny would come to set and be all over Will, rubbing his back, kissing him on the lips, slapping his butt. After a good scene at rehearsal, he'd tell Will, you own this set. You do whatever you want. And if you have any problems, you tell me. Benny's role as executive producer gave him nearly unlimited power on the set. So basically, Will started sleeping with the guy in charge, and apparently could do no wrong, could do what he wanted on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So, oh, hey, Taco Bell. Yeah, I'm reading the 38 Years with Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. It was Will Smith's best friends for 38 years. So the last chapter, Will and Jada decided to have the best friendship, right? Because they're both fucking deviants, it sounds like. So, yeah, this is called 38 Years with Will and Jada Smith, a memoir. I Am Whistleblower by Brother Bilal. This was Will Smith's best friends for 38 years. And now, currently, because he put this book out, he's self-published, Jada Pinkett Smith is currently trying to sue him to get it. She doesn't want people to hear this book. So, all right. So we ended on the game had changed and we were all just trying to keep up. All right, I'll read some of chapter 4. And if you did just roll in, this book is self-published, so it could be a little bit rough listening to it. It's rough reading it, but here we go. So at this point, Will and Jada decided to be bestest friends, and Jada told his posse, like, basically, you guys are my bitches now. So, with the success of and apparently Jada likes women and Will likes men, so, yeah. With the success of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so many people wanting to come visit Will on the set of Fresh Prince, and sparked a phenomenon of rappers wanting to be actors. Benny Medina started to bring Puffy, aka Sean Diddy Combs, to set. If you are new and you don't know who Sean P. Diddy Combs is, Sexual deviant, convicted. Puffy used to talk trash about Will, saying he was corny and he couldn't rap. Now he is up on the set smiling, grinning, shucking, and jiving all in Will's face. He is a real sucker and clown. Benny Medina, Puffy, and Will would start having regular meetings. Then, before you knew it, they were best friends. For some reason, Will was always trying to impress Puffy. The trio started partying. Okay. The trio started partying together. They would frequent the clubs, and Benny would take them to exclusive parties in the Hollywood Hills. These parties in the Hollywood Hills were parties for the rich, elite executives that would party with lots of drugs and gay activists. Or is that gay activities? Yeah, with lots of drugs and gay activities. Basically, the gatekeepers of the entertainment industry. The men and women in these rooms basically controlled how black and brown people are portrayed in televisions and movies and what type of content they wanted promoted in music. They all loved Benny. That's Will's manager, Will's supposedly sleeping with. He would always bring them fresh raw meat to edify their sexual appetite, and Will and Puffy were no exceptions. Oh, fresh raw meat, he means victims. And Will and Puffy were no exception. The men and women in these rooms basically run Hollywood and have the power to greenlight a project with the stroke of a booty. I meant to say with the stroke of a pen. Before you knew it, Will and Puffy are now involved sexually. Will and Jada are still an item, and now Puffy has joined the party. Puffy convinced Will to build 2 party tents on his property. It's basically a luxury clubhouse in a tent and a luxury sex dungeon housed under a tent. These tents would have a strip pole, bed, sex toys, a sex swing, a secret recording camera, televisions with porn playing, and one area would be a 2-way mirror in which they could sit down and watch people through the 2-way mirror. This setup was wild. Once this was set up, this setup was wild once this was set up. All they needed to do was get talent. That's really awkward. This setup was wild. Once this was set up, all they needed to do was get talent. Benny Medina put Will and Puffy with an agency that would discreetly send gay escorts and transgendered strippers to provide escort services and exotic dancing. A van would arrive at Will and Jada's house with the escorts blindfolded and would be checked to make sure they didn't have any recording devices. Once checked, they were escorted into the tents. Charlie Mack was solely in charge of this. Everything had to run through Charlie Mack. No one was allowed in the tent, even myself or Puffy's people. I'll pause right there. So some of these names, I am not huge on Hollywood gossip and big name executives. I recognize some of the names, so we can go back later and Google some of these names. But I know I've heard Benny Medina's name. Everybody knows who Puff Daddy is. And this Charlie Mack sounds familiar too. Let's see. Charlie Mack was running back and forth, bringing food, drinks, drugs, towels. Rumors were spreading about Will, Diddy, and Jada and their sex parties. These were not rumors, these were facts. Who would believe a transgender sex worker saying they were at a freak-off party with Will Smith, Puff Daddy, and Jada? It sounded far-fetched at the time. There were many celebrities and celebrity couples starting to come. I will say none of the celebrities had to be forced to do anything. Many celebrities were so mad at Will, Puffy, and Jada that they didn't get an invitation to their sex tents or the sex setup at the club. I would get so many calls from multiple celebrities asking, can they come party with Will, Jada, and Puffy? Puffy would bring Kim Porter and Mary J. Blige to Will and Jada's house, often to private freak-offs and illegal drug use. Jada and Kim Porter really liked each other. Her and Jada would become very close from my observation. Jada fell in love with Kim Porter and wanted to spend time with her without Will and Puffy present. I had been doing interviews. Okay, sorry. I had been doing interviews talking about these actions before Puffy was arrested. Okay, so I guess he's talking about, he's going from back then when they were having these freak off parties to how he was talking about this before Puffy was indicted and arrested for his sex crimes. We'll add this one to the list of things I was talking about before Puffy was arrested or grand jury was convened. I think one of the reasons Will really got the party tense was not just to impress Puffy. Will fell in love with Puffy. Puffy made Will seem cool and not the corny type. One night by the swimming pool, Will, Jada, and Puffy were hanging out, drinking and doing their drugs. There were two drug Puffy introduced to Will and Jada was scopolamine and Tussie. Tussie is also known as pink cocaine. It's a synthetic drug that you snort up your nose and gives you the feeling of cocaine and ecstasy. Scopolamine is a drug that can either make a person either like a zombie and the person would submit to your will, or put you in a state of unconsciousness for up to 24 hours with some loss of memory depending on how much of the drug is taken. As years would pass, Will and Jada started using these drugs to commit many sex crimes. I was having a conversation with one of Will and Jada's security guards who worked at the house. He started to walk and talk. When we looked over by the swimming pool, we saw a threesome. Jada hitting Will with a strap on dildo and Will sucking Puffy's penis. It was nothing unusual for me to see some wild shit at Will and Jada's house. Tussie, yeah, Tussie, Frosty the Hoe Man. Dear Lord. Okay, I guess we're getting into it. Balls deep, boys and girls. So, if anybody, did he do speech to text Mrs. Morris reads? I don't know, but there are some this is really difficult to read. Like, I just glanced at the first couple chapters and I was like, oh, it's fine. It's really well written. It's interestingly written, and it's very difficult to read out loud. So, put a 1 in the chat if I'm doing an okay job. Put a 2 in the chat if I need to try to get it together a little better, because I'm trying to make it so it flows and it's understandable. Your virgin ears have a Sue Mom. So put a 1 if it's sounding okay. Put a 2 if I need to work harder. Yeah, Jada is interesting about Kim Porter, right? Random Fish. Okay. Okay, so I'll keep going. I'll reread that sentence because I guess we're going right in the deep end. Boys and girls, get out your life vests and your sunscreen. We're going in. All right. Oh, sorry. I keep turning on my stove. Will fell in love with Puffy. Puffy made Will seem cool and not the corny type. One night by the swimming pool, Will, Jada, and Puffy were hanging out. God, this is drinking and doing their drugs. They were doing drugs. Puffy introduced Will and Jada, the scopolamine, and Tussie. Oh, yeah. When we looked over by the swimming pool, we saw a threesome. Jada hitting Will with a strap-on dildo and Will sucking Puffy's penis. There was nothing unusual for me to see some wild shit at Will and Jada's house. You still hear Taco Bell? Did I scare you off? Will and Jada were fucking freaky, to say the least. Jada really enjoyed people watching her. She got off on that. Puffy would often bring a beautiful woman with him to Will and Jada's house to entertain Jada. Diddy would start dating J-Lo publicly, and we started to see less of Puffy. Okay, Diddy started to date J-Lo publicly, and we started to see less of Puffy. But Benny Medina and Will would hire Puffy to do the Bad Boys 2 movie soundtrack. Will Smith and Benny Medina demanded they hire Puffy, and just like that, Puffy got millions of dollars to produce the Bad Boys 2 movie soundtrack. Puffy was not the first choice, but with Will and Benny backing, Puffy was hired. Puffy would come to the movie set of Bad Boys in Miami with Will, Jada, and Puffy would party like rock stars. I must say, Puff had a stronghold on Miami. When we were in Miami, Puffy team. So I'm just gonna say he never uses like an apostrophe s for a possession. It's always Puffy singular with no apostrophe s, and it's just really difficult to read. Puffy, it's written Puffy team. It's Puffy's team handled everything. When we went to the 2 clubs, we got A1 service. And if you've not been to clubs, A1 service is like a bottle service with hot chicks and stuff. So we got A1 service. Our SUVs pulled right up to the back of the club for VIP entry. The section would have everything set up and 4 girls on standby to service any need. When we went to restaurants, Puffy would buy out the whole restaurant for the night. When we did activities such as yacht parties and jet skiing, Puffy had everything laid out. On the Bad Boys 2 movie set, Puffy had everything laid out. On the Bad Boys 2 movie set would be Puffy and, the Bad Boys 2 movie set would be Puffy's and my first full conversation, or should I say Mr. Combs, as I called him. Puffy said, "Big boy, I see you don't drink, smoke, or partake in party favors, drugs. Take no honeys home or barely say a word, but I did see you last night fucking that food up at Prime 112 restaurant and taking the leftovers home." So basically, Brother Bilal, he's a very big man, but he's a big guy too. He eats. He's a little pudgy. So Puffy's commenting on Brother Bilal, how he fucked up the food and took leftovers home. So, and that's something Will used to tease him about too when they first got to be friends. So, yeah. So I did see you last night fucking that food up and taking leftovers home. We both started laughing hysterically. I could tell Mr. Combs I am not here to party or lose focus, but to assist Will. I am Muslim, so I don't drink, do drugs, or smoke. But I do love the ladies, but I only like BBWs, big beautiful women. I don't like anything under 200 pounds, he said. I don't like anything underneath 200 pounds. He said, "Damn, you need a heavy-duty bed. I definitely need more people like you on my team. If you ever need anything, let me know." I said, "Thank you, Mr. Combs," and kept moving. I never trusted this dude or liked him, and my premonitions about him would come true. When we returned to Los Angeles, Puffy would come to Will and Jada's house, and he brought J-Lo with him. I don't think they were a couple at the time. You could tell there was some tension between Jada and J-Lo. That beef was from Jada being jealous of Keenen Ivory Wayans' relationship with J-Lo. Back in the day, Jada was one of Keenan's jump-offs, a random woman he would go have sex with, but Keenen was trying to beg J-Lo, and Jada was extremely jealous over this. When Jada and J-Lo were in the same room, J-Lo would get all the attention. Jada had a pretty face, but her body was developed like a boy. Now, J-Lo, on the other hand, had the full package. Keenen would hire J-Lo on the show in living color as one of the fly girl dancers. Benny Medina would try to keep the peace. He told the group, "We are all family now." Will would tell J-Lo to give him a hug Will would tell J-Lo to "Give me a hug, little cousin." They all shared a laugh. Puffy and Tupac were cool too. Puff would bring Tupac to one of Will and Jada's parties, not the sex parties. It's ironic that Tupac, an accused killer, was at the same party with Puffy Keef. I don't know what that sentence means. It was the same party with Puffy Keefe. Keefe D would speak up. Okay. It's ironic that Tupac accused killer was at the same party with Puffy Keefe D. Keefe D would speak about the kind of parties Will and Jada would have in several interviews. Will and Jada and Puffy were definitely about that sex, drugs, and hip-hop life. I remember at one specific party, Will would tell me to come get him if Tupac started to talk to Jada for too long. Will told me that he wanted to kill Tupac. Will hated and were jealous of Tupac. Jada would stop talking with Puffy after more evidence would come out about him being involved in Tupac murder. Will would convince Jada that Puffy didn't have anything to do with Tupac's murder, and they would start hanging out again. But by this time, Puffy and J-Lo were an item. Jada came up with a plan to try to get Will to talk to J-Lo for a threesome, and Kim Porter for a threesome without Puffy. Also, Jada had secret cameras inside the sex tents, and Puffy found out that Will and Jada had Kim Porter, Mary J. Blige, and him on tape taking drugs and having sex. Will and Jada loved watching porn with herself as a participant. Puffy put the word out that he was going to fuck Will on sight. Puffy was rolling around Los Angeles hunting for Will with a pack of gangsters. Puffy had some serious street dudes on his team. Everybody in the industry knew Puffy and Will and Jada was at war, and Puffy was not playing with Will and Jada. All right, so I think what happened is Will and Jada had cameras in their tents, and as everybody's now heard, Puffy liked recording people to have stuff to blackmail, but he found out that Will and Jada have recordings of him with Kim Porter and Mary J. Blige, so he was pissed and he was going after Will and Jada. Is this making sense? Yeah, the guy needed to take a... Yeah, this is a little bit... You would think these people never work so much time, right? Okay, so I think he got a little bit jumbled right here, and this is his first draft or first edition, so I suspect when he said, hey, get a hold of me, if I get a hold of him and say, hey, page 36, maybe I'll highlight this, I'll be like, that is a jumbled mess, my dude. You need to rewrite that, because what, oh boy. So, hold on a second, I'm going to get my highlight pen, because I need to... This is untenable to read. Let me get my highlighter. I'll be right back. Oh, Mr. Creeplook moved my highlighter pen. So, okay, let me write this down real quick and I'll keep reading. So that's page 36, middle of the page. That second paragraph is an absolute shit show. Yeah? So, page 36, second paragraph. A mess. Yeah, that whole section right here. Maybe I'll make a little mark in the book too, and then I'll keep reading. I wish I could find, let me look one more place. All right, hold on. Do you guys want me to keep reading? I'm assuming. But yeah, this, I'm sorry, you guys. This is an absolute nightmare to try to read out loud. And so I don't know. This Keef, it's Keefe, capital D. I'm wondering if he's meaning Keenan. Keenan Ivory Wayans, but no, this is Keefe D. So how about we pause for a second? I'm going to Google and see if I can't find out who Keefe D is real quick. How's that sound? So hold on. And then I'll go back and we'll finish this chapter. Does that sound good? Hey, Capone Boxer, put a 1 in the chat if you're cool with me stopping for just a second. I'm trying to see if we can't figure out if there's somebody named Keefe D. Okay, that has to do with Puff Daddy. Keefe D. Keefe D trial. Oh my, hold on. There's something about a Keefe D trial. The trial of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis for the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur began in Las Vegas. Okay. So the guy that shot Tupac. Do you want me to reread that paragraph now that we know who Keefe D is? Or should we just keep going? 1 if you want me to reread that train wreck of a paragraph. Put a 2 if you want me to keep going because you kind of have an idea what's going on. Yeah, we're going deep lore now. Yeah, so 1 if you want me to reread the thing about Puff Daddy and Tupac and Keefe D and Puffy wanting to kill Jada and Will for recording. 1, and put a 2 if you're like, nah, we're good. Keep going. Okay, I'm seeing 1, 1, 1, 1. Dash and D's like, no. 1, 1. Okay, I will reread it. So, all right. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is the one that killed Tupac. Okay. Okay, 1 says Random Fish. My chat is weird tonight. Yeah, it's not moving. Okay, so I'll go back a little bit. Okay, let's see. So everybody remembers the part where Jada was hitting Will with a strap-on dildo and Will was sucking Puffy's penis. It was nothing unusual for me to see some wild shit at Will and Jada's house. Everybody remember that? Okay. Okay, and then Mr. Combs made a comment to Brother Bilal how he's a big boy. If you want to come work for me, he didn't want to. And J-Lo started dating Puffy. And then Jada being jealous of Keenen Ivory Wayans' relationship with J-Lo, as in Jennifer Lopez. Back in the day, Jada was one of Keenan's jump-offs, a random woman he'd have sex with, but Keenan was trying to bag J-Lo, and Jada was extremely jealous over this. When Jada and J-Lo were in the same room, J-Lo would get all the attention. Jada had a pretty face, but she basically built like a 2x4. J-Lo, on the other hand, had the full package. Keenen Ivory Wayans would hire J-Lo on the show In Living Color. Hold on, it's really hot in here. Okay, Keenen Ivory Wayans hired J-Lo on the show In Living Color as one of the Fly Girl dancers. Benny Medina would try to keep the peace, I guess, between J-Lo and Jada. Benny Medina is the guy that Will Smith originally started sleeping with. He was a huge executive producer and he was Will's manager. Benny Medina would try to keep the peace. He told the group, "We are all family now." Will would tell J-Lo to give me a hug, little cousin. They all shared a laugh. Puffy and Tupac were cool too. Puff would bring Tupac to one of Will and Jada's parties, not the sex parties. It's ironic that Tupac's accused killer was at the same party with Puffy. And the killer was Keefe D. That's what he was trying to say. Keefe D would speak about the kind of parties Will and Jada would have in several interviews. Will, Jada, and Puffy were definitely about the sex, drugs, and hip-hop life. I remember at one specific party, Will would tell me to come get him if Tupac started to talk to Jada for too long. Will told me that he wanted to kill Tupac. Will hated and was really jealous of Tupac. Jada would stop talking with Puffy after more evidence would come out about him being involved in Tupac's murder. Because remember, Tupac or Puffy and Keith D were friends, and Keith D's the guy that got arrested for killing Tupac. And Jada always had a thing for Tupac, involved in the Tupac murder. Will would convince Jada that Puffy didn't have anything to do with the Tupac murder, and they would start hanging out again. But by this time, Puffy and J-Lo were an item. Does everyone remember where there supposedly there was shooting in a club where J-Lo and Puffy were, but the gun disappeared, and everybody said, oh, J-Lo snuck it out in her purse, and they're like, how dare you? Okay, so... Okay, where was I? Killed Tupac, Jada, that didn't have to do with Tupac's murder. By this time, Puffy and J-Lo were an item. Jada came up with a plan to try to get Will to talk to J-Lo for a threesome and Kim Porter for a threesome without Puffy. So Jada came up with a plan to get Will to talk to J-Lo so Jada, Will, and J-Lo could have a threesome, and also for Will to talk to Kim Porter so Kim Porter, Jada, and Will could have a threesome without Puffy there. Also, Jada had secret cameras inside of the sex tents, and Puffy found out that Will and Jada had Kim Porter, Mary J. Blige, and himself on tape taking drugs and having sex. So Kim Porter, Mary J. Blige, and Puffy were on a tape doing drugs and having sex. Will and Jada loved watching porn, especially with herself as a participant. Puffy put the word out that he was going to fuck up Will on sight. Puffy was rolling around Los Angeles hunting for Will with a pack of gangsters. Puffy had some serious street dudes on his team. Everybody in the industry knew Puffy, and Will and Jada was at war, and Puffy was not playing with Will and Jada. Things were getting dangerous, but Benny Medina and some other top executives was finally able to get Puffy and Will to sit down and work this situation out. I was not at the meeting, but Will told me that Puffy slapped the shit out of him at the meeting and brought a gun. Will was laughing when he told us what happened. He said he never thought that skinny motherfucker hit so hard. Will said after Puffy slapped him so hard he saw stars. Charlie Mack and I were literally on the floor crying. I asked Will, what did he want to do? He said, we good now. I don't know how the situation was resolved, but it was like nothing ever happened between Puffy, Will, and Jada. Some time would pass and Puffy would start to come back around and would bring Justin Bieber with him. Holy shit. Okay. Oh boy. So let's see. All right. Will and Jada and Puffy would bring Justin Bieber with him. Will wanted Jaden, his son, to work with Justin Bieber, and Puffy could make that happen. Will, Puffy, Jaden, and Justice started spending a lot of time together, and I would start to notice some inappropriate sexual behavior between all of them. When they were in the studio working with Jaden and Justin would stand between Puffy's leg and sit on Diddy's lap. Jaden and Justin would be kissing, hugging, touching, and grinding on each other. Will and Puffy helped Justin with his visa to stay in the country because Justin Bieber's Canadian. They had a lot of control over that little kid. Puffy would work with Jaden and Justin Bieber, so Jaden Smith and Justin Bieber, on the Karate Kid movie soundtrack. Will and Jada would allow Jaden to stay days at a time with Puffy, so Jaden and Justin Bieber could get music done. Also, Will would attend a couple of Puffy's white parties. I attended 2 white parties with Will. After Diddy got arrested, I started to leak the pictures to the press with Will at Diddy's white parties. I have only been to 2 white parties. The shit was demonic. They had a naked lady on the table covered with food. They had men and women in tiger cages with a zookeeper with a whip watching the cage. When the party was winding down and everyone started to leave, there was a much more festive party happening inside of Puffy's house. This party was by invitation only. Drugs and liquor were everywhere and all kinds of sex happening everywhere. I got the fuck out of there. Will stayed. Will was all about that man, the man on men sex life. I would quickly learn that a lot of rappers and actors were bisexual. All that tough talking they do on records, all that tough talk they would do on interviews and portrayals of being a ladies' man in music videos was all a facade. Two rappers were about to fist fight over who was going to get to go first to have sex with a transgender. The debauchery really happened when the white party was over. Those invited to stay was about the life and knew why they were staying after everyone else left the party. Since I went to these parties with Will, I was able to get a first-hand look at the layout. Diddy would tell certain people to stay after the party was over, both men and women. Diddy was more like the connector. While the parties were going on, Diddy would introduce various celebrities to different men and women to talk during the actual party. Then when the party was over, Diddy would have the after party and his place would turn into what I would perceive as a whorehouse. These parties were more of a hunting ground for people who were willing to do anything to break into the business and for celebrities to have uninhibited sexual desires fulfilled. Chapter 4B, the room was darkened. Okay, I think this is the part B of chapter 4. Do we want to stop here? Let's see. Yeah, I think he meant that he's kind of breaking chapter 4 into two parts, part A and part B. This one looks like the room was dark and smelled strongly of alcohol. Jada, who would use the living empty bottles, glass. So, do you want me to read to the end of this chapter, or do we want to be done? One, hello from the Netherlands. Bud, I see you. Are you taking off, Cabone? Okay, so put a 1 if you want me to read. There are, let me see how many pages left. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 pages left if I keep reading from this point on. So do you want me to keep reading chapter 4B, or do we want to be done? So 1 is keep reading. 2 is like, no, I want to be done. So, and if you're just rolling in, this is 38 Years with Will and Jada Smith, written by Brother Bilal, who was Will Smith's best friend and basically his bodyguard for 38 years. Went to LA with him from Philly and knew Will from back when Brother Bilal was a gangsta. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 1s. This stuff, and what do you feel like? Thanks, Mrs. Morris reads. Mrs. Morris reads, this is hard to read. This is, oh my. All right, we'll keep going. We've only got 8 more pages. This is, I'm doing the best I can, guys. I really am. All right. So this is chapter 4B. The room was dark, so we're shifting gears. So we were talking about Puff Daddy and the white parties and Justin Bieber, that poor kid being there, and that Will Smith's own son Jaden used to go spend the night with Puff Daddy so he can make music with Justin Bieber. Yeah. Will Smith's, both of his kids are kind of weird. All right, so we're shifting gears. Let's see. I said, looks like this. They are. They're hard. Okay. We only have 8 more pages. We'll be done, guys, and then we'll get into the foodle stuff. The room was dark and smelled strongly of alcohol. Jada, who used to be lively and in control, now seemed lost. Empty bottles and glasses were scattered on the table, showing that it had been a night of excessive drinking. Jada stumbled across the room, unsteady on her feet. She looked around, searching for something to numb her pain. The walls felt like they were closing in on her, making her feel suffocated. She reached for a bottle, but her hand shook as she struggled to find comfort in its contents. Jada longed for the days when she used to dance and laugh with her friends at the gay club called Peanuts. But now she is not welcome there anymore. Will watched Jada with concern and frustration. He had let her stay in his house, hoping to provide a safe place for her. Jada's hold on Will was tight, manipulating him in every aspect of their relationship. Despite her fading movie career, she stubbornly clung to Baltimore, desperately holding on to the memories of her past life. Jada's struggle with drugs and alcohol made her behavior erratic and challenging for those around her to handle. The entertainment industry had grown weary of her unpredictable antics, and she was rapidly becoming an outcast. Her battle with drugs and alcohol only adds to the complexity of her situation, and it was evident that people were growing wary of her presence. Her words carried a tone of disrespect, causing even her closest friends to distance themselves. Will, however, attempted to shield her from judgment, attributing her behavior to the adjustment of being around unfamiliar faces. In an effort to provide stability, he extended an invitation to Jada's family to come visit her in Los Angeles with all expenses paid, hoping that would help her find a sense of calm. Despite the high hopes that accompanied the arrival of Jada's cousin, the situation did not improve as expected. In fact, Jada's condition continued to deteriorate, leaving Will so concerned. Like she had told Will, she really is a handful. Whenever anyone dared to confront her about her destructive choices, she would lash out at the person. Will, Jada's family, and her closest... Fish, you know I'm reading. I'm reading! I know. Can I finish? I'm almost done. Yes, you're my kitty. Let's see. Whether anyone dared to confront her about her destructive choices, she would lash out at the person. Will, Jada's family, and her closest friends were at a loss for how to help her. They had tried their best to provide support, understanding, and a safe environment, but it seemed that their efforts were in vain. As Will's devotion to Jada grew, so did his willingness to send money without considering the consequences. Determined to keep her happy and distracted from her struggles, he spared no expense in showering her with lavish gifts and extravagant outings. Unbeknownst to Jada, Will was already burdened with ongoing payments to the IRS. The weight of his financial obligations was steadily increasing, and his reckless spending only worsened the situation. As someone who witnessed the drama firsthand, I couldn't help but worry about the path he was heading down, fearing that he was sinking deeper into debt. I kept my concerns to myself, hoping that Will would eventually come to realize the truth of his financial predicament. I understood his desire to provide for Jada and make her happy, but I also knew that financial stability was crucial for their long-term well-being. It pained me to witness his financial irresponsibility, knowing that it would lead to dire consequences if left unchecked. In my heart, I hoped that Will would find the strength to confront the truth and make the necessary changes. Will's determination to defend Jada and make her happy was truly remarkable. However, as I pondered on his actions, I am reminded of the complexities and challenges faced by loved ones when trying to help someone struggling with addiction. He genuinely believed that by showering her with gifts and extravagant outings, he could distract her from her struggles and bring her happiness. But I can't help but question the sustainability of his approach and whether it truly addresses the root of Jada's issues. Supporting someone with addiction requires finding a balance. While it is crucial to provide love, understanding, and a safe environment, it is equally important to encourage accountability and to seek professional help. In Will's perspective, he found himself living a dream. He had Jada, a woman who was highly desired by men in Black Hollywood. With Jada by his side, he felt liberated to embrace his bisexuality. It was not uncommon for Jada to bring other women into their lives, and I would occasionally witness their playful interaction and flirtations in the living room. Will would sit back, a smile on his face as he observed these moments. Surprisingly, there were times when Jada would even watch as Will and his friend Dwayne did the same. Their house seemed less like a home and more like a wild party, filled with laughter, loud music, and endless drinks and drugs. As they partied one evening, the air was thick with the smell of alcohol and the sound of laughter echoing off the walls. Jada danced wildly while other friends joined in. I sat on the couch, feeling like a ghost in the room. A sinking feeling started to settle in my stomach. Will was caught in this whirlwind, blissfully unaware of how quickly it could all come crashing down. The flashing lights, the laughter, and the carefree moments made it all seem perfect, but I couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the surface lay a storm waiting to break. At that moment, I wished Will could see reality. I wanted him to understand the danger lurking around. Will trusted me, but he knew I had my limits. I wouldn't get drugs or get male prostitutes for Will, but I would protect him from people trying to harm him. So, yeah, Brother Bilal was his bodyguard, too. I recognized my own limits and boundaries. That's where Charlie Mack came in. Okay, why does that name sound familiar? Let's look. Who's Charlie Mack? Charlie Mack. Is he talking about the actor Charlie Mack? Charles E. Alston. Is that him? Charlie Mack, aka Kareem Abdul, aka Mr. Philadelphia, Charlie Mack. So, Charlie Mack, aka Kareem Abdul, aka Mr. Philadelphia, also known as Charles E. Alston, an entertainment giant with a long-standing track record of entertainment businesses. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Let's see, where was I? Where was I? Distracted. Wait. Okay, I recognize my own limits and boundaries. That's where Charlie Mack came in, aka Charles E. Alston. Very rich man, lots of power. Charlie would do anything for Will, no questions asked. The thing is, Will and Charlie weren't on good terms. Charlie Mack had been caught stealing from Will, and it got ugly. But I saw how things were going down, and I knew Will needed someone like Charlie around. Someone who'd do the dirty work without flinching. One day I pulled Will aside. Look, I said, I know Charlie messed up, but right now, with all this chaos, you need a tough guy like him in your corner. Yeah, he's no saint, but he'd walk through fire for you. Will thought it over, his forehead creased with worry. Finally, he nodded. All right, he said, I'll bring him back. This was around the time Will was splitting up with Cherie. Okay, so I guess we're flashing back. So I guess Will was divorcing Cherie, his first wife, getting with Jada. Jada was acting a fool and being a mess, and I guess Charlie Mack had gotten caught stealing from Will, so he wasn't around on the team. And so this is way before Puff Daddy. Okay. Now Jada, she had Will wrapped around her little finger. In his eyes, she could do no wrong. So I guess we're flashed way back now. But I knew better. One day I found out something big. Jada was still sleeping with her ex, Grant Hill, the NBA star. When I told Will, he exploded. Will, I said, my voice steady, I'm 100% sure about this. I've got proof if you need it. Will's face turned red. His hands shook as he stormed off to confront Jada. I stayed close just in case. Their voices carried through the whole house. Jada admitted it straight up. You don't satisfy me in bed, she yelled. You said I could be who I am. The screaming got so loud I thought the windows would shatter. Then suddenly, a different sound. I rushed in to see Will with his hands around Jada's neck. He squeezed for a few seconds, then let go and crumpled to the floor, sobbing like a child. Jada, she didn't even flinch. She looked down at Will, her voice ice cold. I'm still gonna teach you how to be a man, she said. Next time you choke me, don't stop like a little bitch. Yeah, I think Charlie Mack had that yacht. Alright. Next time you choke me, don't stop like a little bitch. Choke me out. Then, okay, so apparently this sentence goes on, but in a different paragraph. Next time you choke me, don't stop like a little bitch. Choke me out, then I'll know you mean what you say. As I stood there, a silent observer in the chaos of Will and Jada's confrontation, it struck me just how deeply our society distorts our understanding of strength and vulnerability within relationships. In this moment, I saw a distorted mirror of the values we often hold, where showing emotions is seen as weakness and where aggression can be misinterpreted as power. Will's hands around Jada's neck reflected not just a moment of rage, but also a troubling perception of what it meant to be a man. I couldn't believe my ears. Will was a mess on the floor, and Jada just stood there, cool as could be. You said I could be who I am. I need a big fucking dick to heat this fucking pussy up, and obviously you don't have one. I knew you weren't man enough to handle me. Now come to the bedroom and lay with me, she said. You think Will would have told her to get the fuck out of his house, right? Nope. He got up, tears still on his face, and said, sorry, babe. Then he followed her to the bedroom like a puppy. I stood there, stunned. The mind fucking Jada was doing to Will is on another level. The power she had over Will was something else. It was like she could twist his mind any way she wanted. If you know Will, you know he can be one vindictive motherfucker. The day after the blow up with Jaya, Will came to me with fire in his eyes. I need you to get back into Philly Street soldier mode for me. We gotta send Grant Hill a message. He knew Jada was my girl and he still fucked her. Will wanted Grant to feel pain. You want me to hurt him or just send a message? I asked. Will said, okay, so I'll read that again. I need you to get back into Philly Street soldier mode for me. We gotta send Grant Hill a message. He knew Jada was my girl and he still fucked her. Will wanted Grant to feel pain. You want me to hurt him or just send a message? I asked. Will said to send a message. That was enough for me. I got to work. Hit a big 5 and loaded up. Hunting suit, black sweatsuit, gloves, mountain bike, face mask, boots, black sneakers, and socks. Swung by Ralph's supermarket for 4 gallons of milk and plastic jugs, smokes, and a lighter. Flew to Vegas, rented a black SUV, and drove down to LA. On the way, I swapped out the milk for gas at a station. I knew where Grant was staying, renting a place in LA. My plan, roll up at 3 a.m., park nearby, slip these gas-filled jugs under his ride, then I'll ditch the SUV 3 miles out, grab the mountain bike I brought, pedal back 1 block away, I'd light up, coming down Grant Street, I'd flick the lit cigarette under his car. By then, these milk jugs would have leaked plenty. I'd circle around the block to get the top of his street, and boom! Let me tell you, 1 gallon would have been enough. That car lit up like the 4th of July. I booked it back to Vegas, returned the SUV, and hopped the 45-minute flight back to LA. I will say there must be a statute of limitations on this because he wouldn't be writing this down. So All right. So Brother Bilal just blew up Grant Hill's. Can somebody Google to see if Grant Hill had a car that got blown up in Vegas? Or was it LA? No, in LA. When I saw Will, all he said was, "Good job," and handed me an envelope. I tried to refuse, but he insisted. "Take it. I know Jada's a handful. Consider it a bonus." Well, shit. When he put it that way, I wasn't going to say no twice. Later, Will called Grant. "You mess with my girl again, things will get worse." Grant never showed his face with Jada after that. Word got around that Grant suspected Will was behind his car going up in flames, but ain't nobody could prove shit. That's how things worked in our world. You cross the line, you pay the price. And Will, he always collected his debts one way or another. 2 weeks after the Grant Hill situation, did somebody Google that? Did his car blow up? Somebody Google that. 2 weeks after the Grant Hill situation, Will hit me up again. This time, it was about some dude stealing a large amount of money from Jada. Will was seeing red. "What do you want me to do?" I asked him. Will's voice was cold. "I want him to feel a lot of pain. Make this motherfucker bleed." I knew this job needed backup. "I gotta bring my cousin from Philly out here," I told Will. "Don't worry. I'll keep him away from you. Just give me an address and a picture. We'll handle it." My cousin flew in the next day. I took him shopping at Beverly Center, threw him a few grand, and we hit some clubs. When I told him about the job, he was all business. "I need you to bump this guy's car," I explained. "When he gets out, I'll hit him with bear spray and stick him a few times." My cousin looked at me like I was soft. "This job doesn't need two people. I can do it myself." That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Didn't want to ask him directly to do the dirty work. We flew to Vegas, rented a car, and stripped the plates. Back in LA, we posted up in separate rides, so I guess he's going to have his cousin do the ass beating. Because, yeah, it's easy work. Back in LA, we posted up as separate rides outside the guy's gated apartment. When he rolled out, we tailed him. On a quiet side street, my cousin made his move. Bumped the target's car from behind. When the guy got out to check the damage, my cousin was on him like lightning. Bear spray to the face, then stabbing him in the arms and legs several times. My cousin wasn't playing. The target hit the ground hard. We bounced quickly, heading back to my cousin's hotel on Universal Studios. "We gotta catch the red eye back to Philly," I told him. "That dude saw your face, even with the shades. You can't take chances." My cousin just shrugged. "Cuzzo, when you need some real work done, give me a call." This was child's play. He still had the $3,000 I gave him earlier. I'd cover everything on the trip. I slipped him another $2,000 for his ticket and taxi. "You know I'm down for whatever," he said before heading to LAX. I let the rental sit in the hotel lot for about 5 days before driving it back to Vegas. Loose ends are tied up nice and neat. When I reported back to Will, he just nodded. No need for words. Well, and he didn't mention a name, so maybe that doesn't have a statute of limitations, apparently. And somebody getting stabbed in LA. So, okay, loose ends are tied up nice and neat. When I reported back to Will, he just nodded. No need for words. In our world, actions spoke louder. And the message we'd sent, it was coming through loud and clear. The day after the job, I rolled up to Will and Jada's place. Something was off. Jada was being nice. Too nice. It was like walking into a room full of mouse traps. One wrong step and snap. "Can we talk?" Jada asked, her voice sweet as honey. "Privately?" We moved to the study and Jada shut the door. The click of the lock felt like a jail cell closing. "You know," she said, settling into a leather chair, "I didn't like you at first." My stomach dropped. "Oh?" I kept my voice neutral. "Mm-hmm," she nodded. "I even asked Will to get rid of you. the room felt smaller suddenly. Why's that? I asked, trying to keep my cool. Jada's eyes narrowed. Didn't see any use for you. Plus, Will told me you thought we weren't a good couple. Shit. Oh. Will told me you thought we weren't a good couple. Shit, Will in his big mouth. I had to think fast. I let out a laugh, hoping it didn't sound as nervous as I felt. Well, it's pretty clear who's boss around here now. Jada's lips curved into a smile. Look, I said, leaning in, I can't go back to Philly. Will told me everything about you, she said. My blood ran cold. Everything? How much was everything? I made a mental note from now on. Will gets no details, none. Well, I said, forcing a grin, I guess that means we're practically family now. Jada laughed, this time. It seemed genuine. I suppose it does, she said. By the way, I'm officially moving in. Great, just great. Jada's move-in was like a hurricane hitting a trailer park. Total chaos. So, and if you just got here, Brother Bilal did some shady shit in Philly, as did Will Smith, but Will Smith was watched people do shady shit. Brother Bilal actually did the shady shit, so it sounds like Will told all Brother Bilal's past secrets to Jada. So Brother Bilal decided Will gets no information about anything from now on. Jada's move-in was like a hurricane hitting a trailer park. Total chaos, but the real drama, that came later. One day I walked into Will's house and there were 2 new pictures in the living room. Jada and Tupac, looking cozy. Real cozy. It was another one of Jada's mind games. Every time Will looked at those pictures, I could see the doubt creep into his eyes. Jada made sure Will knew he'd never measure up to Tupac. She'd go on and on about how Tupac was her soulmate, how she would die for him. It was all about control. Jada wanted Will thinking that if he ever left, Tupac would swoop in and take his place. Never mind that Tupac was rotting in jail at the time. But here's the thing about life. It's got a sick sense of humor. Just when you think you've got it all figured out, it throws you a curveball. And boy, did we get a curveball one day. The news hit like a bomb. Tupac was out. Not just out of jail, out and in Los Angeles. Signed with Death Row Records. I remember standing in Will's living room staring at those pictures of Jada and Tupac thinking, well shit, this is about to get real interesting. And interesting, that was putting it mildly. Okay, I'm not reading any more of this out loud for right now. So that was 2 chapters of this book. Hold on, let me turn the light off. I'm losing my voice. All right. Okay, so I guess, wow, we've got a chunk. Well, I guess we'll keep doing a couple chapters. Oh my God. Some of these, this is chapter 16, part 5, chapter 16, part 4, oh my God. This thing is really hard to read. I guess I will try to be let me do some thinking, but maybe like once a week or maybe once every other week. I don't know. I'll keep reading it, but I believe some of what he's saying and the funny thing is this was all happening before Puff Daddy and his freak-offs got him arrested and stuff, so yeah. You did great, cutie. All right. How long have I been on? Let's see, what time is it? It's, oh man, it's going on almost 2 hours. An hour and 45 minutes. Do we want to do a quick, recap of what's the name of the book and written by whom? Okay, so the book is called 38 Years with Will and Jada memoir. I am Whistleblower. I don't know. That's what it says by Brother Bilal, and I think it's called Gumroad. Is the place he is selling these through? If I remember, I'll put a link in a post. But if you Google 38 Years with Will and Jada memoir by Brother Bilal, um, book for sale, the Gumroad site should come up, and you can actually purchase it if you want. Like I said, he wrote it obviously, and self-published it. And I think if he actually had an editor that worked with him, he could do something with this. He's obviously not a writer. He's smart, but he's not a writer. So, but that's what it's called. Oh, thanks, Dax. Hey, it's good to see you, Dax. Let's see, where am I? The author really needed. Oh, yeah. I am so tempted to email him and be like, no shade, but you want some help with editing? Just because some of these sentences are just painful. No, he didn't go. He didn't want to go through Amazon. He didn't want to go through anybody because he was really worried about people with money and power being able to shut his story down. Jada's taken him, trying to sue him to get this book out of publication and stuff. So, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he's real paranoid because he said, from the interview I saw with him, he's like, these people have money and they can shut people up and they can make things go away. And he didn't want somebody to get hold of his book. He didn't want to disappear. He didn't want somebody else to get a hold of it in public, so he did it all himself. So I'll give him that. But the stuff that he, like that one where the guy got stabbed, there was no name. Probably because there's no statute of limitation. But blowing up that car, I'm sure there's probably a statute of limitation on that. Maybe that's why. Anybody Google to see if Grant Hill's car got blown up in LA? Let's see. We know who Charlie Mack is, so Grant Hill, NBA car explodes. Car explosion. Let's see. But it's really old. That's from the 90s, so I don't know if we'll be able to find. Yeah, I'm not, but and it's kind of a common name too, so. Yeah, crazy cat lady. Like, I'll give him this. So, no car. Yeah, I can't find a car bomb, but maybe they blew up the wrong person. So, yeah, Brother Bilal was basically a hired thug, gangsta. So, do we want to go over some foodie stuff? Because I can't read any more of this book out loud. Like, my voice, I'm a talker, but yeah, my voice is kind of just, it's this book, it's really difficult to read. It just is a shit show. Sometimes when he writes Tupac, he writes Tupac, and sometimes he puts a 2 PAC. So it's difficult. It's difficult. Put a 1 in the chat if we want to go over some foodles. Put a 2 if you're like, nah. Let's wrap it up. I suspect everybody's going to put a 1, but I need to use the restroom real quick. Everybody go use the restroom real quick. And wash your hands when you're done. I have to pee like a racehorse. So everybody, let's do that. And then when we come back, we can go over the foodle notes, okay? Does that sound good? I see all the ones. So, all right. We'll leave Chantal here to answer questions and to have conversation with everybody. I'll be right back. Everybody wash their hands. Also, I wish, if I remember, I'll take a picture. I have got a light I use for my house plants clamped to a mic stand with my iPad holder clamped to the bottom of the mic stand. You know, like you see they use in speeches and song and on stage and stuff. And then I've got like the phone right here. It's yeah. I'll try to. Let's see. I'll see if I can't take a photo and post it because it looks absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I suppose I can try to come on every couple weeks so we can finish reading that book because I'm sure everybody wants to know. And even if you can't make the live, the Bad Baking and Questionable Cooking will be on my channel so you can come back and hear the rest of the story. I'm assuming, Mom, I'm scared. I'm assuming everybody wants to hear the rest of this. Does anyone question foodie in the kitchen, right? So for me, for the last I don't know, the last 3-4 weeks, I've just kind of not been. I'm paying attention tangentially, but I'm just not like hanging on her every word because. So here's what I think is going to happen, and so ever since Chantal and Salad is a scumbag and a scammer, but she's a scammer too. Like she's willing to pay for attention. And ever since they got together, Chantal has said, we have plans, we have goals, we have long-term goals. Does everybody remember that? She's always talking about their long-term goals. So I think this has been mapped out for a while. I don't think they planned on having to leave Kuwait quite as fast as they did because Chantal, but I think their time there was starting to grow short, like they were moving into another stage of their plan, and Foodie's ego and attitude got in the way, and so they kind of had to jumpstart what they were doing, you know, and she ran away to Canada. And I think that's when Sally said, okay, we're going to be shifting to this next part of our plan. But Chantal, you know, she got that apartment and she didn't have her gopher and didn't have a car, and then she got that cat and she got overwhelmed, and so she went running back to Syria. He didn't want her there, but she went running back there, and we see how well that worked out. But the plan the entire time, in my opinion, was for her to go to Canada and spend 1 year in Canada. For some reason, they were really big on her going back and spending a year. And even when she got there, she kept saying like, oh, this next year and 1 year. There's a lot of 1 year talk. It sounds like, well, you need to do this for a year and stuff. And then she's now heading back to Syria or the Middle East or something, and he seems okay with it. And he keeps making comments about this marriage certificate. So I'm wondering if they aren't actually going to get legally married in Syria because because for the 3 years she was in Kuwait, she was away from Canada pretty much that entire time. So I'm wondering if there isn't some legal requirement where she needed to go to Canada and spend 1 year in Canada or something for some kind of hoops to jump through or something, but now she's heading back to Syria. And are they going to get legally married in Syria? So eventually she can try to bring him back to Canada as her husband? Does this make sense? Hey, Jake girl, does this make sense what I'm saying though? That I just feel like this has been part of the plan this entire time. And yeah, she threw a fit. It was him. It was them. And no, that was just Chantal being Chantal, because anytime she's told no, anytime something doesn't go her way, anytime she's inconvenienced, when Chantal cannot get what she wants, Chantal's drug of choice is food. And when she's in Canada, it's food and then weed. But in Syria, you know, when she wasn't getting the food she wanted and she couldn't get the weed, her next favorite drug of choice was drama, emotions. You know, Chantal, at the bottom of it, at the end of the day, Chantal is an addict. And for an addict, I want what I want and I want it right now. And so Chantal wanted what she wanted. She wanted the fast food, the junk food, and she couldn't get that. She couldn't get the weed to change how she feels. So what do when you want to change how you feel right now and you can't get the food and you can't get the drugs? You start a fight. emotions, or a real good way, especially picking a fight or getting really sad is a good way to change how you feel right now. Because, like I always say, I want what I want it right now. And that's how Chantal rolls. So she starts fights. Also, Chantal is was did not like Salad's family being around, because how many times did she say everything was fine in Kuwait? Then we get here and they're always around and they're always here, because Salad wasn't there to wait on her hand and foot the way he was in Kuwait, and she could not deal with it. And I have no doubt that his family behind closed doors were like, what is up with this chick, because she is useless. And I also believe that they would gladly take money from her, because they're living in Syria. It is a war-torn country. There is a lot of shit going wrong there. So, she's some fat Western woman's willing to throw some money your way. Okay, but what are you... Hold on. All right. Is not supposed to be here. Apparently he's here. So anyway, where was I? I thought somebody was breaking in. So let's see, where was I? Yeah, Vishnu was sitting here staring at the door, and I'm like, better get a knife. So let's see. Yeah, let her go to Syria. So here's one thing. So me being me, now these are old, right? I wrote this down. These things got written down in like March and April of last year. So this right here is 2 weeks worth, from January 24th to February 14th of 2025, right? And then this column is from March 26th through April 13th of 2025. And I wrote down like 2 weeks worth of her videos, because she's erased all this, but this is like the Alfredo one, the BK one, the pizza one, KFC. This was when she was all still in Kuwait, the Wingstop one, her health one, and I wrote down the amount of views she got. And so, you go through total of 124,000 views. But anyway, each video in her January to February, the 2-week period, got on an average of 9.6 thousand views. Fast forward just a couple months, and her average views were down to 7.4 thousand views per video. And remember how things just kept getting worse and worse in Kuwait? And then fast forward from there to and remember what came around like July and stuff, things just really got dismal for her. And then the Bruce Lee thing happened, and then she showed back up in Canada, and it was all crazy, and people were watching her all the time. And so from July 16th to August 19th, because it took nearly a month to get 13 videos, whereas these happened in 2 weeks period. You got the 13. It took a month to get that, but her views were up to let me see. So July 16th to August 19th, her views went, so I know this is a mess. So January, February last year, her 9.6 thousand views per video versus March, April, it was down to 7.4. That's a 23% decrease, right? Well, and then come July and August of that same year, her views had gone back up to 8.5 thousand views per video on average, but it took 5 weeks instead of 2 weeks to get the 13 videos. And so, but everything happened with Bruce Lee. But then fast forward to another month period, which would have been April of this year, April 3rd to April 29th, which was about 26 days. Her views were back down to 4.9% thousand views per video. So it's almost half of what it was in July and August of last year. And now if you look at her average views, they're absolutely dismal. So January to February of 2025, 9.6 thousand average. March to April 2025, 7.4 thousand views per video, 23% decrease. We come to July into August 19th, 2025. It took a month, but her average view was up to 8.5 thousand views per video. But then fast forward to April of this year, and her views are back down to 4.9. And then if you look at the original 9.6 thousand views, January, February of 2025 versus where she was in April of this year, with the 4.9 thousand, her average views are down 41% from where they were even 18 months ago. And you're like, well, who cares? Well, because that's how you make money on YouTube. So her downward, and this doesn't even include her demonetization stuff, so her ability to make money is slowly going down. And we keep hearing her over and over saying, oh, I can't do Kick and Siri, I can't do Kick. Well, I think she's also realizing that she doesn't have any discoverability on yes, and I wrote all this stuff down over a year ago, and it's just been sitting there because I haven't gone live forever. And also, she's deleted all these videos and stuff, so this stuff is priceless because you can't, she's got rid of all these videos, so you can't do the maths anymore. But she's, her views are going down and down and down. She's got no discoverability anymore. Like, people don't have a way to find her on Kick. And she's not putting in the time on YouTube, so she's not building an audience. I mean, heck, just 2-3 weeks ago, she put up a photo of FFG and made the comment about the cat and her stealing the cat. Oh my God. And she, not even one, but two people in her comment section, they had left a comment and said, who is that? Like, her turnover rate for her comment section, for her chat, is the churn and burn is at such a high rate that she has the majority of people in her chat nowadays, other than Teardrop and a couple others, they don't even know who FFG is. Tonight, Chantal was on talking about FFG, and she really was rehashing all the things FFG had done. Like, she started, how she got a hold of her, and about FFG's boyfriend hitting her with the hammer, and I can't believe she showed up at the runway show and the cat, and she's hateful. And I was like, why is she even talking about this? Then I realized Chantal, this is my opinion, Chantal's audience is also new. They don't really even know FFG. And seeing as FFG is not even, is she even on YouTube anymore? And so they don't know who she is. They don't, and nobody really talks about her. And so it's like she's having to tell her new audience how terrible this person is because they don't even know who she is. And that's pretty scary if, your biggest nemesis, one of your biggest haters, your audience doesn't even know who that person is. Whereas even 4 or 5 months ago, everybody knew who FFG was in Chantal's chat. That just tells you she can't hold on to an audience. And so she is really dependent on continually getting a new audience and finding new people. And that's not happening on Kick. And her income on YouTube, I'm going to guess, has halved itself. And I suspect whatever's going on Kick, because Kick, from as I understand it, is big on the number of concurrent live views you have. Well, she's only getting like 100, 125 people tops, really, overall on average, watching her videos live. And then it just kind of goes down from there. So all the views afterward, it's not like YouTube. You don't really make money on that. You make the money because of who's watching you while you're live. And that's not going so well for her. Sorry, I'm not trying to ignore people. Yeah, she sits, eats, and begs for money. And so, yeah, so I couldn't believe it when I got this out. And I know that probably didn't make, basically what I'm saying, in the last year and a half, she went from 9.6 thousand views on average down to 7.4, and then the Bruce Lee stuff and the series stuff happened, and it went up to 8.5 thousand, but now she's down to 4.9 thousand, and that was as of April this year. If you look I need to go into her latest videos though and do the maths. And I suspect she's more down to like 3.6, 3.2 thousand. So she's probably down a solid, 55% from where she was even a year and a half ago. But, or maybe I don't care that much. I know, I seem a little crazy. Yeah, Squeaky, and most of the people in Chantal's chat, they don't really donate. They're there, for emotional support. You've got Teardrop, as far as I'm concerned, is just an energy vampire. Squeaky it seems like most of the people that Chantal connects with, on a real, like, you see me kind of way, are fellow people who make similar bad choices to Chantal. And so, of course, and Chantal always wants to make everything about, she was saying something about all these skinny bitches in Girl World and stuff, and I don't consider myself part of Girl World, but, and I don't speak for anybody else, but I don't really attack Chantal on her looks or anything like that. She's a super morbidly obese, middle-aged woman who has monetized her addiction and stuff, but I comment on her behavior, like her uncontrolled type 2 diabetes and her addict behavior, and just she's a black hole of need. It's always about her. I comment about that, and her looks are just secondary. As I've said a million times before, Chantal could be a skinny legend, and she would still be a terrible human being. She would still be absolutely vile, So, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, so the people that Chantal connects with they seem to be fellow obese women that have a problem with other women and the world in general because they're so put upon. And nobody seems to be taking a look at their own behaviors and, let's see. But yeah, and then that Nina, I don't know who that Nina is. The Nina's always, and I think Nina might be like an empty nester because I've not even paid that much attention. And then there's that Ryder who I think is probably just a feeder or a troll that has some money. Who knows? But I do think that she doesn't have enough money, or she's not going to have enough money to keep living where she is, to keep eating how she's eating that quantity of food. And she doesn't have the self-control to not be buying the bud and to not always be ordering out. So she views Syria almost as a kind of rehab, which if you think about it, and what did she say tonight? She said, she said, let's see, she was talking about Breezy, being a psychotic fucking cunt makes you ugly as fuck and nobody wants to fuck with or stick their dick in crazy. Okay, Chantal, quite the modest Muslima, are we? And then she comments, her hair is so fried. This bitch and that other bitch. Pious Muslim there. But let's see, what did she say that really got my attention? And she's talking about people like her, literally a shit skid mark on society. And then in the same breath goes on to talk about people because her and her ad hominem attacks is how she rolls. Oh, she's talking about FFG. She's the biggest liar ever, and her lies are so obvious. Two things can be true at once. FFG can be angry and lie, and Chantal can also be a terrible human being who is incredibly manipulative and is just trying to siphon as much money off of her audience as possible. Oh, but what was she saying? She was saying something about Syria. Let me see. She was saying... Oh, yeah, she was saying they won't ever go to Syria because Girl World isn't willing to, because Girl World isn't willing to go to Syria. They've already made their mind up, and they don't even know Syria. And she was going on defending Syria. But if you think about it, though she says, I love Syria, it's great, her actual disrespect for that country is next level. She is using that country literally as a rehab because they are so limited on resources, and because of very strict law, she can't get the drugs, she can't get the takeout, she won't have the creature comfort. She can't have a mobility scooter. Why? Because a lot of the places don't have sidewalks because the place has been bombed into the Stone Age. And so she's going to this place that has been in the middle of a brutal civil war that has been absolutely devastated. And the reason I don't just say decimated, and it irritates me because people say, oh, it decimated the city. It decimated. Dessa is Latin for 10. So to decimate something means you take out 1 out of every 10, or a tenth of something. And so when you say decimate, that means you knocked out a tenth of something. Decimate and devastate, well, people use them interchangeably. They're two different words, really, if you look at the etymology. Decimate is 1/10 of a thing is gone. Devastating is what the war in Syria has been, because it has leveled everything. And Chantal is going to this country and using it as a rehab because they don't have the resources for her to get the things that her lazy ass thinks she needs. She's never gonna, I mean, think about it. You have to go to a country that's in the middle, just got out of a civil war, has been bombed in the Stone Age, and is run by Sharia law for you to stop your bad habits. If that doesn't say self-entitled, lazy as fuck, I don't know what does. But the thing is, with geographical relocations, wherever you go, there you are. She won't be able to get the weed, she won't be able to get the fast food she wants, and so she's going to have to lean more heavily onto the emotional part, which we've seen before. Sorry, I'm not ignoring people. Yeah, I just hope, I'm still tuned in because I'm just here for the series finale. That's what I'm here for. I've been watching since 2016. So, yeah, because I was chatting with Kidney J the other day. Like, we've been watching her before she had the Kia, just all that stuff. Like, this has been a train wreck, a long time coming. Yeah, talk etymology to me. Hey, Catlicious. So, yeah, Chantal, and she just, but the thing is I honestly believe, and the thing is with the type 2 diabetes that Chantal has going, and I say this all the time, and I'll say it again, she is so used to being able to talk her way out of the consequences. Like, if you think about it, she's not really had any major consequences that she cares about. She's had some inconveniences, and she had to leave Kuwait quicker than she wanted to, but she's always just bulldozed through. She manipulates and lies and whines and cries and gets what she wants, and she's just surrounded herself. She has really no friends. Pete isn't coming around. Even seems like her family's even more standoffish, but she surrounded herself with this virtual hug box, which just allows her to be the worst version of herself. But the thing is when it comes to medical issues, especially with the diabetes and stuff like that, you cannot manipulate your way out of that. You cannot lie your way out of that. You cannot bully your way out of it. It's just, and she's not faced consequences that she hasn't found some way to, leave the country or move or lie about. That's not how it works. And what she's doing with her body and the way she's eating with this type 2 diabetes, I mean, you don't want an A1C really over 7, realistically. And she's happy if she can keep her A1C around 10, which is double what it should be. And the damage, and if you think about all that sugar in her blood, you can think of sugar like little shards of glass going through her kidneys, her eyes, all the little capillaries, and there's no repairing that. There just isn't. And with the way she's eating the food and the salt and everything, it's not if, it's when. Something is going to happen. And because she's going back to Syria, if she ends up back over there, I'm here for it. It sucks because Chantal going over there with all her myriad of medical needs, when that country, there are people that she's just going to be sucking up resources is what she's going to do, because she just takes and takes and takes. But so Did you hear her say that people have been offering to buy BG and willing to sign an NDA? That might have been me. Yeah, you know what? Taco Bell. It's that cat is so adorable. I just so I really hope BG doesn't go with her because she is just such. What was she saying? Um, let's see. What was she saying? Uh, Oh, and she was talking about, oh, I get exhausted around children after an hour. They have too much energy. No, Chantal, children take work because you can't, you have to pay attention to them. And Chantal is so incredibly self centered that she does not want to be around children because they want your attention. And we know Chantal, she doesn't want to pay attention to anything but what she wants to do, which is food and ceiling. Um, let's see. I went over, let's see, wait, talk up to the two babies. And so, oh yeah, and she's been referring to the cats as her two babies more and more and more. She's really trying to paint this picture as in her going to Syria is, to complete her family. I don't care what anybody says. I think Salad's a scumbag. I also think he might be, I know he's slow, and I'm pretty sure he is, a window licker or crayon eater. He's, short yellow bus kind of guy. But they really are perfect for each other because they're both like scumbags and they're both kind of think they're scamming the world. Like they really think they're the smartest cats in the room. And I do still think they're still trying to get Salad to Canada. They have a business arrangement, in my opinion. Let's see. Oh, and then Chantal was saying, she was talking about flying. She goes, I've never needed two seats, never. Would it be more room? Yeah. Does anybody remember when she was saying how Qatar, was it Qatar Airlines that told her the next time she flies that she had to get two seats? Put a one in the chat if you remember her saying that. I think it was Qatar, but remember her saying that they told her at that airline, put a one in the chat, that she needs to get two seats. She can't because she is too large. And I think that, remember how she said, well, I can't take Qatar. She didn't say I won't. She said I can't. And I think it's because Qatar Airlines is the one that told her, hey, you need to get two seats. So she's not going to go back on Qatar. Even though they have the best plans for flying with animals. But, let's see. Oh, and she was talking about, she said, do you know how many pets travel in cabins? And you guys are acting like none of this has happened before. They make airline approved carriers. No, Chantal, it's not the fact that you're flying with a cat. It's the fact that you have a documented history of animal neglect. And we see even now how you neglect your cat's needs. So what, pray tell, makes you think that you're going to get on a plane for an extremely long haul journey and be able to care for an animal? What was it the other day? She was talking, she said, how much did I weigh when I was at the doctor's? 187 kilograms. And now she's back to saying she weighed 178, then 175, then 172 kilograms, and then back up to 175 kilograms, which is around 396, between 378 pounds and 396. I think Chantal's thing is she's staying in the 172 to 179 kilogram range because that keeps her below 400 pounds. I do not for a second think she's below 400 pounds. I think when she said, oh, how much was I at the doctor's the other day, 187 kilograms, that's like 412 pounds. I think that's closer to what weight range she is, the 400, probably closer to 420. But I think what it is when she's doing it in kilograms, she's knocking 10 or 15, maybe 20. I think she's knocking 10 to 15 kilograms. So if the doctor says you weigh 187 kilograms, she's now 172 kilograms. She's knocking 10 to 15 kilograms off, which is like 35 pounds. So she's hovering right below the 400 level. I think she's more up around the 420, 425 level. But for some reason, she just won't admit that she's gone over, because her highest was 402, remember? And we've seen photos of that, and she's much bigger now. But so for her to think that a 17 and a half inch for a regular seat, versus if she gets like first class, those are only 22 inches. Her scooter has I think it's like an 18 or 19-inch seat, and we've seen how much she hangs over both sides. So let me see if I have the screenshot, if it's on this, or is it on this, or hold on. Okay, I think I have it on the old one. Yeah. So let's see. I'm trying to see. I think I might have the screenshot on this, and I can't get on that. Yeah, I don't think I have it. Yeah, but everybody's seen her from behind on the scooter. So right here, and this is an old one, but we've seen her behind on this thing, and she hangs over. So that scooter seat, I want to say it's like 18 and a half inches, which is an inch bigger than your standard airline seat, and she hangs off, this much on each side, so she cannot physically fit in one airline seat. Even I think it would, even like the first class, she would really be hard pressed to even make it in there. And then the girth this way, she has to get a business class or something, because she only has about this much room between her belly and that seat in front of her. We've all seen that. Yeah. So, but yeah, and as of late, airlines, a lot of airlines used to have the, courtesy extra seat, no extra charge. They're not doing that anymore. There is no courtesy extra seat and stuff. And if you are a passenger of size, as they say, you need to pay for that second seat. And it's just how it is. So she can say what she wants, but yeah, and I showed that picture a long time ago, and I want to say, I think it was Fat Cow or somebody pulled up that documentary with that lady. Remember, like last year, I showed a picture of that lady that's the same height as Chantal, and she was 430 pounds, and she was noticeably smaller than Chantal. And apparently, Fat Cow recently found that documentary, because I saw her post a picture. It came up in my feed on her post, but if anybody remembers, though, we went over her last year, and the chick's about the same height as Chantal, and she clearly weighed in, and at 438 pounds, and Chantal is notably bigger than that chick. So I'm just flipping through real quick to see. Oh yeah, right here. Does everybody remember when we went over her? Yeah, so she's same height as Chantal, weighs in at 430 pounds. And yeah, 430 pounds weighed in on screen. And Chantal's trying to claim that she weighs less than this woman. And then so we went over this back. This is how long ago when we went over this, when she was in Qatar, when she got the scam money from Sasa. So let's see. Yeah, they do deserve each other. And that's with filters, and her thinning filter is some next level. Like, it's shocking how much they can thin people out. And like I said, I'm not commenting. Chantal, I'm just commenting on her, what a liar she is as far as her size. She claims to be so free and loves herself. No, she can't stand herself. She can't stand anybody else. She especially hates other women. Oh, but here's the one thing that really chapped my ass. She literally said in this live she did tonight, where she's sitting outside getting baked, she goes, overweight and disabled people can travel. She is trying to now lump being overweight in with being handicapped and disabled. No, Chantal, those are two different things. When she told her mom, I can't walk, I need the scooter. No, Chantal, it's not that you can't walk. You won't walk. Can't and won't are two very different words. Can't means that there is no physical way or mental way. It is something that you are not able to do, period, no matter what. Won't is something that you are not willing to do. Chantal is not willing to be uncomfortable. Chantal is not willing to walk because she doesn't like to be uncomfortable and she doesn't like to put herself out. That is very different from I can't walk. Chantal chooses not to walk. But because she chooses not to walk, she is now rolling her obesity and her laziness into and calling people ableist, you know, as if her laziness and her obesity puts her in the same category as somebody that is handicapped and disabled. No, no, no. It's coming. It's rapidly coming. But Chantal is not disabled. She chooses to be lazy. That's a very different thing. Oh, I keep turning this thing on, damn it. Yeah, I would. If I can't even imagine having to sit next to her on a plane. She probably smells like. Just never mind. But karma is coming for her. And yes, I know technically karma is what happens to you after you die in your next life on how you're reincarnated. But I'm using karma in the Western sense. Okay? So. Yeah, everything that happens to Chantal is self-inflicted. She does it to herself, you know. And I don't have any sympathy for her, and she's not disabled, and she's not handicapped. Yeah, life's getting hard. That's what happens when you're 5 feet tall and you're 430 pounds. It's hard. But I'm trying to see if there's anything else. I have some more notes here, but I think we pretty much, because I'm getting tired and we've been on for a really long time. Let's see. Yeah, it has been over a year since we streamed. But she keeps talking about, like, oh, this, that, and FFG's so terrible, and she's angry, and BBJ and all this stuff. Fun fact, two things could be true at once. FFG can lie to her audience, be angry, and not be well liked by the community. But that doesn't negate the fact that Chantal is a liar and a manipulator. Two things can be true at once. Chantal's rationale is, she's like, well, you know, but they did this and they did that. It would be like somebody, let's say a guy killed his wife, right? And his defense to the judge was, well, Ted Bundy killed 5 people in one night. Like, two things can be true at once. You can be wrong and a bad person for killing somebody, and that doesn't take away from the fact, I mean, these straw man arguments of her, and she's been in this hug box for so long that her brain is just tapioca. So I don't even need to go into how her manipulation is just addict 101 behavior. But she just keeps saying the same shit she says all the time. Smack talking other women, straw man arguments, just typical lazy, angry, addict behavior, trying to manipulate everybody. And I am convinced at this point that everybody in her chat are otherwise they're either fellow train wrecks or trolls and feeders. But either way, the income, if that writer and that Nina went away, Chantal would truly be screwed. And I think that's another reason she is going back to Syria, because she cannot, and she has to, in Syria, she's going to be incredibly wealthy, but she's not going to be able to do kick over there. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with her channel. Yeah, it's so late here, guys. Okay, it is getting late. I know everybody's tired. So the book, if you want to rewind it, the book I read, 38 Years with Will and Jada Smith, a memoir, I'm whistleblower, Brother Bilal. I'll try to schedule you guys. So I can't even remember. Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to try to maybe schedule a live within the next couple weeks, probably on a Saturday or Sunday again, and I can read a couple more chapters of this. And we'll start trying to go live a little more. I do see that they changed the monetization guidelines. I'm not monetized, okay? And it's near impossible. It was near impossible. I could almost get monetized at one point, but it's just I'm and now apparently there's because I got an email from YouTube and now they're doubling the requirements. I couldn't even hit the 4,000 hours as is. There's no way I'm hitting 8,000 unless I started going live. And I don't want to be monetized because I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because I'm doing this. So, but I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, it's just with this monetization thing. I know where I was going with this. It'll be interesting to see if they start clamping down on other aspects of monetization, because like they have the couples channel and they just haven't been doing much with that. And I'm pretty sure you have to keep like at least 1,000 qualified watch hours per year to keep your monetization and stuff. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. So yeah, okay. It looks like everybody's down for, okay. So I will try to get, yeah, thanks for modding Princess Alyssa too. So I will try to get something, and you know how it is. I say, a couple weeks. It might be 3 or 4 weeks, but as we're getting more into the fall, I won't be having to spend as much time in the yard, and I might have more energy. But yeah, it's a good book. The next book I'm thinking about getting to is that book by Bob Chapek, the Disney stuff. I was kind of interested in that. Oh, and then there was one other book I just heard about. Oh my God, who was it? Somebody just wrote, and it's some kind of tell-all. Who was it? Darn it! It's right here on the tip of my tongue, and I know it's something that. Let me think for a second. I can see the name. I can see the face, but I can't. Somebody recently put out, and not the Bob Chapek, but somebody else just put out a book, and I was like, ooh, that might be interesting. I can't remember who it was. Darn it. Nope. Right now I'm doing okay on mods. He said the other day he was demonetized. Oh, so Salad got demonetized. Okay, was it the couples channel that got demonetized, or was it his gaming channel? Because I know his gaming channel, like he only got like 2 views and stuff. So I'm guessing maybe. So we'll see. We'll know soon enough. I can't remember what the book was. Hopefully it comes to me though, because I know it was up there with Jada Pinkett Smith as far as something I wanted to read, and it was a supposed tell-all memoir from Hollywood, but I can't remember who it is. I'll have to remember some other time. Trisha Paytas has a new book. Oh, speaking. So, has anybody heard of Lucy Worsley? She's a PhD. She does a lot of British history stuff. She does a lot of BBC shows, especially about the Tudors and the Georgians and all that stuff. She has a new book out. I think it's called The King's Bed. And that I think would be, yeah, I love Lucy too, Jocelyn's mom. So I was thinking about maybe getting the Lucy Worsley book and maybe reading some of those chapters on live for us to have a conversation about, because let's face it, like George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, he just based it on all in the English royal history, the Yorks and the Lancasters and the War of the Roses and all this stuff. I mean, you want to talk about murder and mayhem and intrigue. And so, yeah, the royals are just batshit crazy how they were all killing each other and sleeping with each other. And so I was thinking about getting Lucy Worsley's book. So I'll do one quick poll and then we'll get off. Put a 1 in the chat if you're interested in hearing some of Lucy Worsley's book being read, and then we can smack talk the British royals, because it kind of feeds into Meghan Markle and Harry and his Todger. So, and put a 2 if you're like, nah, I'm not that interested in British royalty. I've got it basically memorized. I'm like a fanatic from Alfred the Great all the way down through the Norman Conquest and how Old English turned into Middle English, so okay, yeah, it seems like a lot of people really like Lucy. I do too. She's just so wonderful, and I'm sure her book, I'm sure her book is a billion times better than trying to read this bad boy out loud. Because this, I actually have a headache from trying to read this. So okay, well, so Chantal, she's a train wreck. I do think she's going to Sirius soon, and I just hope she has internet. I hope she doesn't have AC, and I hope there's power troubles, but I really hope she has internet. It's going to be interesting. Okay, so I'm going to say goodnight to everyone. Hey, good to see you, Dax. And hey, good to see you, Ennis and Miss Morris Reeds and Dashing D and Effie Bug, Frosty the Hoeman and M. Hobbs and Woolly Bird and Jig Girl and Jocelyn's mom and Crazy Cat, Lady Steph, and let's see who else. Is anybody else? And I know Taco Bell's here. And Princess Alyssa. And okay, if I forgot you, I didn't mean to forget you. I'm tired. So, okay, we're going to go. I will try to get the Lucy Worsley book ordered. When the Bob Chapek book comes out, I'm definitely ordering that. And we'll do some more reading of this one very soon, okay? Scout's promise. So, okay. Goodbye, everybody. Bye. Everybody say bye. Yeah, the Royals are the worst. Bye. Bye, everybody. Oh, they changed everything. I don't know how to get out of this. Yes, Vishnu, I don't know how. Hold on. Can you show me? Nope. She won't let me pick her up. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you. I think